So, yeah, so we've been looking at anger, trying to understand anger better. What are the conditions that make us more prone to become angry? What are the sort of symptoms that we can look for as anger is increasing, as anger is coming on, making negative judgments, being strongly attached to something being a certain way and seeing that being countered, some things happening the opposite way, and then sort of physical symptoms, getting hot, getting kind of surge of energy, feeling the heart rate increase, and so forth. And then actually what anger is, and some of the ways that we can kind of start to reduce anger by reevaluating our expectations, thinking about the drawbacks of anger, how we're not happy, how it doesn't actually help us change the other person's behavior. So it makes us unhappy, but doesn't really eliminate the causes for us becoming angry. And it doesn't stop us from being harmed. Also, another reasoning Chandrakirti uses is because at the time we become angry, the thing that's provoked us has already happened, right? So it's not, becoming angry is not going to stop that from happening because it's already happened. And rather than if we get angry, it makes it more likely that the other person is going to do something again to us that we don't like, right? So actually becoming angry makes it doesn't make it like less likely that they're going to do that same thing again that we got angry about in the first place, but it makes it more likely you're going to do the same thing again in some situations, but every situation is different. So then we looked at some different ways to reduce anger. So now, and then look at what are the opposite of anger, try to contrast with an opposite. So in the case of afflictive emotions, within afflictive emotions, attachment is the opposite of anger, because instead of focusing on something positive and exaggerating instead of focusing on something negative, as does anger, and exaggerating the negativity of that, attachment focuses on something that's attractive and pleasant and exaggerates the ability of something to please us. Whereas anger exaggerates the ability of something to harm us. And whereas anger causes us to want to shun or distance ourselves from the object of anger, destroy the object of anger, attachment, on the other hand, causes us to want to crave and want to bring close to and enjoy and possess the object of our attachment. Whereas the opposite of anger that's not an afflictive emotion, that's a positive emotion, is loving kindness. Because whereas anger causes us to not care about and actually want to harm or be disconcerted about, want to push away and totally eliminate the object of anger, loving kindness is wishing to bring about the well-being. Is opening our heart to. Sort of anger is like closing our heart to. When we don't care about another person, we close our heart to that person. It's like we don't care about them anymore. It's like we become more cold-hearted because of not caring. Whereas loving kindness causes us to be more open-hearted, more warm-hearted. When we focus on others and just generate the wish that they be well, that they be happy, and may I even bring about that, their well-being and happiness in some way. So it causes us to be more kind and open-hearted. Whereas anger generally causes us to be more cruel, right, and cold-hearted. So another kind of, of course, in the moment we're angry, we can't just switch to loving kindness in that very moment. It's totally unrealistic, right? It doesn't happen like that. But the more we cultivate patience, there's two antidotes to anger. One is patience, which is kind of forbearance, the ability to just bear hardship, right? So when we're doing physical work, for example, like most of us, if someone told us to go out and dig a ditch along this road, we wouldn't last like 20 minutes. And we'd have blisters on our hands, we'd be exhausted, we'd be fed up, and we'd just be like, okay, forget this, I'm not doing it. Because we don't have forbearance, because we haven't practiced doing that. But if we worked at digging ditches for 6 months, gradually we'd be able to do a little bit more every day, and gradually we'd have calluses on our hands, and we'd have on our hands and strong arms, and we'd be used to standing out in the sun, and we'd build up the endurance to be able to do that. So that's a kind of patience or forbearance. So similarly, with other people doing things that we don't like, mistreating us, if we never, if we're from a very protective family, everyone's very kind and speaks very pleasantly and very polite and very nice, Then we meet one person who's really, you know, belittling and insulting, it easily upsets us, right? Whereas if we were kind of a, you know, rough and rowdy sort of kid running with a lot of different people and rough characters, then we're used to that kind of, you know, insulting, you know, belittling, you know, kind of rough behavior. Then we have more tolerance to that. Not that that's a good thing, but it's a matter of habit, no? So one kind of antidote to anger is just learning to bear hardship, right? Just forbearance, where, you know, even someone mistreats you, speaks to you in a way you don't like, you have to endure things that you don't want to, but you have a kind of, you can develop a kind of, it's not like stamina or kind of thick skin, or you can just kind of, you know, bite your lip and bear it, no? And not get reactive, but just kind of, yeah, instead of reacting with retaliation and resentfulness, just being patient, you know, and not getting upset, sort of maintaining your calm equilibrium, calm state of mind. So that's one kind of antidote, is patience, but that's not what we're going to focus on today. Another antidote to anger is loving kindness, right? So that's what we're going to focus on today. So how does the antidote of loving kindness work? It's more like, it's not so much an antidote you use at the moment you're angry, although you can, but it's something you have to build up beforehand. Just like patience, forbearance is something you have to build up. Loving kindness is more like an attitude that we try to generate as like our default mode. Like your screensaver on your computer, when the computer's just not active, not doing anything for some time, it automatically goes into this mode of, you know, just patterns flying around on the screen, which is a screensaver. So like, you can think any kind of default mode. Like if we make loving kindness, or like in a song, you sing a song and there's a refrain, a verse of refrain. There's different verses, but between those, it always goes back to this refrain. So like in our life, the way we look at other people, the way we look at the world, the way we kind of try to, the state of mind we try to cultivate as our sort of way of being in, our response to all different situations in the world, as one of loving kindness, then the more we generate loving kindness, we're much less prone to become angry. When we do become angry, it doesn't last for very long. It doesn't last as long. It's not as intense. It's not as strong, right? So in that way, loving kindness is it's kind of a broad antidote for anger. And then when we see we're becoming angry, if we practice loving kindness, in that moment we can change. Instead of, because we can see how anger looks at the negative things about the person. If we see, oh, I'm focusing on this negative aspect about them, instead we shift the focus of our attention to just, instead of the person's behavior, think about the person, their potential for goodness, and focus on, you know, wishing that person to be well. So if we practice loving kindness, even as we're becoming angry, we can kind of shift the focus of our attention away from just seeing the negative things to this sort of positive intention. Yeah, so these are some of the benefits. And then loving kindness also is happy. When we have a mind of caring about others, naturally we're happy. It's one of the biggest paradoxes in life, I think, in my little experience, is that the more we're just sort of selfishly concerned about our own happiness, the more actually we feel lonely and not so happy. Whereas the more we're not so concerned about our own kind of, you know, little happiness, but we're really concerned about others, in our family, our friends, and concerned about their happiness, by the way, we naturally feel very happy, right? So loving kindness is attitude of concern and care and wishing for the well-being of, you know, it includes ourselves, not at the exclusion of ourselves, including us, but also including other, you know, other human beings, other animals. Even we can have concern and wish for the well-being in the inanimate environment. You know, wish that rains fall on time. Wish that, you know, the crops grow well. You know, wish that there's a clean water and clean air. We can also be concerned, you know, and you know, see flowers and trees and plants and really have appreciation for them and wish that, you know, they flourish. So we have this kind of loving attitude towards, you know, other creatures and even the inanimate environment. By the way, it brings so much happiness and peace to our own mind, right? So, and then that leads us, and then that happiness gives us energy, gives us strength, it helps our physical well-being, and it inspires, you know, it makes other people around us feel good. So when we're happy, Other people around us, they feel happy, they like to be around us. So then we have better friendships, we attract other people who are like-minded. And so, we end up surrounded by, a group of friends and family who are also, very happy and kind of kind-hearted. Right? So the more we generate kind-heartedness, the more that inspires other people also, to be, and especially when they see us dealing with difficult circumstances in our life and difficult people, and they can see that we don't react with, resentment and vengeance and by belittling, but rather we stay cool, collected, and really react with kindness, then other people feel very inspired that, oh, maybe I can be like that too. How they're so cool, collected, dealing with that really unpleasant person. So then we can be a role model to others, and then it benefits the world, right? And then we feel satisfied with our lives. We can all see how we really lose it, get angry at someone and really lose it, and if we're really upset, then it really can disturb the mind for many, many days. We feel really kind of, I really messed up, I really lost it, really kind of, we let ourselves down in a way. We don't feel good about who we are when we get angry. Whereas, if we really have concern about others, loving kindness towards others, then it makes us feel satisfied with ourselves as a person, feel happy with who we are, right? And then, of course, if we look in terms of karma, anger, we create some of the heaviest negative karma. We create the karma to be treated like that. When we get angry at other people and treat them in ways that are hurtful, harmful to them, we create the karma to be treated like that by other people, right? So it's very negative karma. Whereas we treat other people with loving kindness and sincere concern, then we create the karma to be treated like that by other people also. So acting with loving kindness, then it creates very positive karma, attracts kind-hearted people to us, and then it helps us progress towards enlightenment, towards the spiritual path. We never think of a person who's a highly developed spiritual being, like Tagore or last time I was here in Bangalore, I went to the flower show. There was a flower show at Lovelock Gardens.
Vivekananda.
Oh, Vivekananda. It was all about Vivekananda. Yeah, like Vivekananda, or any highly person like around sage, a Sidhu, yeah, Mahatma Gandhi, or even like Amala in Kerala. You don't think of them as if they get angry, then you feel like, oh, they're a fraud, right? Immediately. You feel like anyone who's really spiritually developed, they're not someone who gets angry. Rather, they're someone who's very kind and patient. And no matter what other people say about them, no matter what other people don't do to them, they remain, they have loving kindness towards that person, no matter who they are. So what we really want to try to develop is loving kindness that's universal, and that it's directed towards everyone equally, without accepting anyone, without any exceptions. No matter if someone's nice to us or someone's cruel to us, we have loving kindness for that person, and no matter what race or caste or sex or political ideology or where they are, no matter if they're human or animal or whatever kind of creature they are. So we try to, our aim, and of course we maybe can't do this now, right, this moment, but we can try to get closer to this, right? So our aim is eventually have universal loving kindness for everyone, and also unconditional loving kindness, meaning that our caring about others is not conditional upon how they treat us. How they treat us is irrelevant, right? It's a decision from our side that we want to have this attitude towards others, irrelevant of what they do or what they say or how they act us. Because the basis, so then what is the basis for our having concern for others? Just that they're the same as us in wanting happiness and wanting to be free from suffering. Just that, And they're the same as us in having a mind, they're other sentient beings, same as us in having a mind, and same as us as in that they experience problems and they experience success. They have pleasant experiences, unpleasant experiences. They have well-being and they also have harm done to them. They have happiness and they have suffering. Right? So we're all the same in that way, in wanting well-being, wanting happiness, and not wanting harm, not wanting misery and pain. Right? So because we're the same, because that's what we want, other people are the same in wanting that. So because I want happiness, I don't want suffering, I don't want other people to harm me, I want people to care about me, to care for me, to support me. right? So because I want that for myself and other people have the same desire, therefore I should treat other people the same way. I should treat other people in a way that I care about them and I don't harm them. So that's the basis. So the way, what other people do, the way they treat me is totally irrelevant. But because we're fundamentally the same kind of creature, that's the basis for having loving kindness towards others. So then, how do we develop loving kindness in our life? Well, it's very helpful to do through meditation. So the way we meditate here is, the actual attitude, in one way, it's quite simple, although we can add layers of complexity. But the basic attitude of loving kindness is just, loving kindness directed towards ourselves. It's just wishing for ourselves to be well and to be happy. Right? Wishing for our well-being, wishing for our happiness. Loving kindness directed towards others is just simply wishing for their well-being, wishing that they be happy. Right? So this can take sort of three different kind of forms of intensity. One way, the sort of most mild is, we can just think how wonderful it would be, if this person was well, this person was happy, right? And slightly more, just how good it would be if that person was happy. So this can help. If someone's treating you in a way you really don't like, you can think, well, they're probably not very happy in that moment. How wonderful it would be if they were happy. If they were happy, they wouldn't be treating me like this, right? So one way, how wonderful it would be. Just imagine this person was happy, how good that would be. I wish. And then the second one is, I wish that would come to be. Not only, the first one is just kind of imagining, how wonderful, if the person was happy, how would that be? Yeah, that'd be good. Right? The second one is a little more intense in that we're wishing, may that actually come to pass. May they be happy. So this is really more like what we think of loving kindness is, may I be happy. May this other person be happy. May they be well. In whatever form that takes. It could be, may they have prosperity, may they have friendship, may they have education, may they have enough food and drink, may they have more wisdom, may they have more peace of mind. It can take all kinds of things. May they be more considerate, whatever. It can take any different form, in all different forms. But in short, may they be well and may they be happy. And then the third, more intense form, more involved form is, may I bring that about. So it's a kind of personal responsibility. Whatever I do, may it contribute to that person being well and happy. May I bring about their well-being and happiness. And to have that attitude, we don't have to know what I should do. We don't have to be like, oh, I'm going to make a lot of money and give it to them, or I'm going to be their best friend, I'm going to spend all my time with them. It doesn't have to be like that involved. Like we have to commit to actually completely changing our lives so that we serve this person, because that's unrealistic. We can't have that. To have that attitude towards everyone would be completely unrealistic. But it's more like, somehow, may the way I live my life contribute to the well-being of all these other people, right? These other people. So there's these three kind of attitude. How wonderful it would be, they're well and happy. May they actually be well and happy. May I actually bring that about. May I contribute towards their well-being and happiness. Is a more intense form. And then there's three kinds of persons we can direct this towards. Of course, there's self and others, basically. But, within others, we can divide the people up into three different groups. Where the difficulty of generating loving kindness is more or less, right? So, towards people that we naturally like our friends, most of our family members, I hope, at least some of our family members is a mixed bag, but towards friends and people we like, basically, friends and family members, it's easy to generate loving kindness, right? It's quite easier. So we start with the easiest, and then we go to the more difficult. So we'll visualize just three individuals: one friend, one we call stranger, and one antagonist, we'll call. So the slightly more difficult is people that we don't know, people who we don't especially like. We also don't especially dislike. We just have a neutral attitude towards them. So this is usually called strangers, or just kind of people we're neutral towards, people we don't have any particular relationship with. It's slightly more difficult to generate the wish for them to have well-being, because we kind of think, well, why should I? I don't even know them. Right? It's an ordinary way of thinking. And then slightly more difficult, can be much more difficult than that, it depends, is people who we find antagonistic, people whom we tend to dislike, right? For whatever reason, people who antagonize us and they provoke us and we tend to dislike. It's most difficult to generate loving kindness for them. So here, when we do that, we're going to try to do that, but don't start with the person you hate the most in the world. It won't work, right? Start with the person whom you kind of just don't like, a little bit don't like, right? So first, if you can generate loving kindness for them and it works, then go to someone who you don't like a little bit more, and then gradually you want to include, that person you hate the most in the world, but don't start there because you won't be able to, right? You'll just get angry as you're thinking about that person, you'll just get angry at them again. Right? So, so the way we'll do the meditation, we'll visualize these 3 different persons, one from each class in front of us, one friend, one stranger, one antagonist. We'll visualize them seated in front of us, and then first we'll generate loving kindness towards ourselves for a few minutes, and then we'll spend a few minutes generating loving kindness for the friend, then for the stranger, and then for the enemy, or the antagonist. Okay? So take a few deep breaths and get comfortable in your meditation posture. Again, gradually draw your attention within. You can come back to your breath. So then begin by imagining 3 people seated in front of you. One friend, or family member, one stranger, and one antagonist, someone whom you tend to dislike, someone who tends to provoke your irritation, anger. So if you can, try to generate a visual image of them. If that's too difficult, then just imagine the person's present, seated in front of you, facing towards you. There's 3 people. So as you think of these three people, imagine them seated in front of you. You can first ask the question, are they the same as me, in that they want happiness and want to be free from suffering? Right, so are we the same? Are the friend, stranger, and antagonist, and myself, are we all four the same in wishing to be free from suffering and wishing to have well-being and happiness? So then, to generate the loving kindness, the wish that a person be well and happy, we begin with ourselves, because if we don't have loving kindness for ourselves, then we're not a good basis to generate that towards others, the same attitude directed towards others. It's difficult to generate sincerely for others if we don't have that attitude for ourselves. So first we direct our attention towards ourselves and just try to generate the intention. Remember these three different forms of intensity. First, how wonderful it would be if I was well and happy. May I be well and happy, and that come about. And may I bring that about. May I create the causes for myself to be happy and well. And so try to just focus your attention on yourself and generate this intention, these different forms, thinking, may I be well, may I be happy. So spend a few minutes like that. then direct your attention towards the friend. So you visualize in front, a few meters distant, friend, stranger, and antagonist. So first direct your attention towards the friend. And consider whatever degree of well-being and happiness they already have, may it increase. And what well-being and happiness they don't have, may they have that. Whether it's physical or mental well-being, happiness. Again, how wonderful it would be if they had. And you could elaborate, this and this and this and this. May they actually have happiness and well-being. May I cause that to happen. And direct your attention towards the stranger, the person towards whom you have neither especially like or dislike, but just a neutral sense. So also generate the wish, may they be well, may they be happy. So it should be a sincere wish, a sincere intention from your heart. May they be well, may they be happy. It shouldn't be just words or just an intellectual thought, but rather a kind of feeling from the heart, an intention, a sincere intention that you feel in your heart. And then shift your attention to the antagonist, the person you tend to dislike. And again, generate the same intention. Know that you're well, know that you're happy. Generate a kind and loving heart towards them. And then finally, just briefly direct your attention towards all three at once. Or even you can include yourself as well, all four. So direct your attention towards yourself, and then the friend, stranger, enemy, and generate the attitude of loving kindness. May they be well, may they be happy. And then, within a couple minutes, just expand that attitude out to embrace more and more people. More friends and family members, more strangers, and even more of your antagonists. kind of imagine that attitude embracing the entire world, all sentient beings, gradually. Relax your attention there. We'll stop the meditation there. So this is a very good, it's very simple, yet very profound, very good meditation to do. And it's something you can do kind of, anywhere, anytime. Especially, when you're in public places, you're walking on the street, you see people, you can generate the attitude, may they be well, may they be happy. You see dogs or cats or animals, you're riding on the bus, you see other people around, you have nothing to do. Just to generate, sit there and spend a few minutes generating this attitude. May all these people, these men, women, children, may they be well, may they be happy. And it's really pleasant. I mean, for oneself, it's a very nice attitude to generate. And it makes, it's a good way to pass the time. You create so much merit by doing so. And, it's a good way to use kind of our life in that moment, to generate positive intention towards others. And then if we can do that, then when we interact with other people, naturally, it's just easier, it's more pleasant, all our interactions with other people. If we have a sincere, wish that they be well and happy, on some level, other people feel that also. They like coming into contact with us, and we bring a little happiness to other people. So it's a good way to use our time, use our energy. Then, like I said before, the more we generate this attitude of loving kindness, then the less prone we are to become angry, or become selfish, become greedy. We naturally become more generous, more patient, more moral. We're also less likely to harm others with our body, our speech, or our mind. So our morality is pure. Our behavior is more kind of clean, clear. And because of that, then also our mind just naturally is more peaceful. We have less things to have regrets about. We have less regrets. Right? So there's so many benefits to practicing this very simple kind of meditation, loving kindness, this attitude. So like I said before, it's good to try to make it kind of your default, the attitude that you come back to again and again. You wake up in the morning, spend a few minutes generating some concentration, and then generating loving kindness. Think of all the people you're going to meet that day. Your children, your spouse, your neighbors, your co-workers, people on the bus, maybe you go to a restaurant, or you go to the shop you go to, to buy groceries or whatever, different people, and think, as I meet those people, may I have the intention that they be well, may they be happy. So generate that motivation in the morning. Everyone I meet, may whatever I do, and also whatever I do today with my body, my speech, especially with my mind, may it only contribute to the well-being and happiness of others, not cause them even the slightest harm, and also contribute to their being free from suffering, now and in the future, up to enlightenment. So generate motivation in the morning, meditate on loving kindness a little bit, and through the day, when you have free moments here and there, come back to it. Maybe at work, you're sitting at work and you have a free, a few minutes, just look around, the other people in your workspace, and think, may they be well, and may they be happy. And bring some happiness to your mind, also brings happiness to others. And then in the evening, then you think about all the actions you did during that day. What are the things that I did that are good? The moral actions, what positive karmas did I create? What are the mistakes I made? Negative karmas I created harmful things maybe I said or did or thought. Generate regret for those and forgive yourself. And then again, you can, in order to purify negative karma, also it's a powerful way to purify negative karma, the Buddha taught. Meditate on loving kindness. Also, when you feel fear, the Buddha taught loving kindness, meditation, loving kindness is one of the best protections from fear. So if you're in a situation where you feel afraid or even have a bad dream, then try to bring to mind loving kindness towards those who you feel might harm you. It's Buddha taught us it's a good protection. So like that. If there's maybe one last question I can take, otherwise we dedicate the merit. Some prayers at the end. Maybe better just dedicate. You can always ask questions in the future. So, let me find this prayer I'll use. The end of this section on taking the 8 Mindfulness precepts. Oh yeah, on page 32. Page 32 in this folding purple. Page 32 and 33. So halfway down the page, after the small praying. So think of first think of all the positive energy, positive karma or merit we've created together yesterday and today, and rejoice. Think how excellent it is. Oneself, through one's own actions and actions of all the others in the course, all the volunteers and sponsors of the center who make this possible. And then think of all the merit created by our spiritual teachers and role models, as well as the Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and others. And all the merits created by all sentient beings in the world who, with a pure motivation, selfless motivation, help one another. Excellent it is. So all this merit gathered together, great oceans of merit, then we dedicate with these verses. May all beings everywhere plagued by suffering and of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. So you can read out loud together. If you read out loud, use your speech, then you create more merit. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain, to dispel the miseries of the world. So especially at this time, may the outbreak of coronavirus from China and spreading all around the world may quickly come to an end. And may all the people who are sick with this illness quickly be healed. May all those who have died of this virus and of other causes recently, may they quickly take a precious human rebirth with the best possible conditions to continue becoming a better and better person, to continue progress on their spiritual path. And everywhere in the world where there's violence, especially war, through war or domestic violence or abuse, may that all come to an end, especially in Syria and Afghanistan and different countries in Africa and in Central and South America. There's so much violence, especially violence against women and children. May that all come to an end. And may all people treat each other with loving kindness and respect and consideration and care. And then, just as I said in prayer, where there are people who have mental, physical suffering, may they be free from that, especially different forms of severe mental illness, like schizophrenia and so forth. May they be free from that. People who have hunger and thirst, may they be free from those forms of suffering. People who are severely depressed, may they have joy in their minds. So then bring to mind anyone else you would like to pray for, or any of our causes you'd like to pray for. And also the environment. May we, as a human species, may we quickly stop and reverse climate destruction, the use of fossil fuels and industrial agriculture, especially meat, and a reliance on fossil fuels, which destroy the environment. So may we quickly reverse global warming. So then bring to mind any other causes you'd like to pray for, persons, or goals for yourself.
In this paragraph, which is linked with loving concerns, may the Supreme Guru Bodhicitta that has not arisen arise in the world, and may that which has arisen not diminish and increase more and more. Just loving kindness.
Yeah, also, yeah. So may all your prayers and aspirations also be fulfilled in accordance with your wish. And especially for the center here that's hosting us, the Choe Ling, may all their activities be only beneficial to sentient beings, not be harmful in any way whatsoever. And may we fulfill the wishes of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Lama Zopa Rinpoche in serving sentient beings. And may all those who see, hear, remember, think of, come to or have contact or insult or belittle or cheat, who have contact with the Choe Ling in any way whatsoever, and all of that become only a cause for their happiness up to full enlightenment and for their freedom from every form of suffering, all the suffering of samsara. And may the center receive all the necessary conditions to continue to offer the Buddha Dharma in different forms to all interested persons, and especially when the center have necessary financial support and be able to obtain its own premises, to have extended facilities, larger gathering hall and library, and kitchen, and so forth. We will offer more and higher quality programs, and eventually a resident teacher to offer more and higher quality programs to all the people of Bangalore and whoever comes. Okay. So thank you all for your participation. You've been a wonderful audience.
Thank you.
Next couple of classes.
Thank you very much.
And I hope we meet again.
It's been a very, very, very enlightening.